It's strange how silence feels heavier when a storm is just outside. That night, the air in my house seemed to carry a pressure that made every sound echo, every movement feel magnified. I was supposed to be alone only for the weekend. Nothing unusual, my parents had gone to visit my aunt, and I had stayed behind with Buddy, our retriever. But as the sky darkened and the storm gathered strength, I realized being alone during a storm is very different from being alone any other night. The walls themselves seem to breathe with the weather, and the darkness outside presses harder against the glass. The rain started with little warning, sharp droplets slapping against the windows, and within minutes the storm was in full swing. Wind howled through the trees, bending them until they looked like shadows bowing toward the ground, and thunder cracked so close it felt as though the house itself shook. At first, I thought it was exciting, being curled up on the couch with a blanket, scrolling through my phone, while lightning painted the walls, bright white for half a second at a time. But Buddy was restless. He kept lifting his head from his paws, staring to. I raised the flashlight, sweeping it across the window. The glass was fogged with condensation, streaked with raindrops racing each other to the sill. At first, I saw nothing, but as I leaned closer, I froze. There were marks on the glass, not inside. Thin trails where the condensation had been wiped away, as if someone had pressed their fingertips against the glass and slowly dragged them downward. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over Buddy, who was barking furiously now. My throat was tight, breath coming in short bursts. No one could have been there. I had locked every door, checked every window, and yet the marks were fresh, clear against the fog. I whispered to myself, "It's nothing. Just the moisture running down." But I didn't believe it. I tried to distract myself, returning to the living room, lighting 2 candles on the coffee table. Their flickering glow felt fragile in the vast dark. The storm raged on, battering the house like it wanted to tear it apart. But inside it was a different kind of quiet, the kind where you imagine you're being watched. I must have dozed off on the couch, because the next thing I remember is waking up to silence. The storm had stopped. The sudden absence of sound was startling. No wind, no rain, not even the dripping of water from the gutters. Just silence so deep it pressed against my ears. The candles had burned down to stubs, their flames weak and trembling. Buddy was gone. I sat up, panic instantly clawing at my chest. He never left my side, especially not during a storm. "Buddy?" I called out, my voice trembling. Nothing, not even the sound of his paws on the wood floor. That's when I noticed the sliding glass door. It was open. Just an inch, maybe 2, but enough for the cold, damp air to seep inside. The chair I had wedged in front of it earlier was toppled over, lying on its side like it had been shoved. My hand shook as I pushed it closed again, locking it, sliding the chair back in place. But my heart was racing too fast, my mind screaming at me that I hadn't left it open. Someone had been inside. Maybe still was. The silence broke with a sound that made my stomach drop. A floorboard creaking upstairs. Slow, heavy, deliberate. I froze, staring at the ceiling. My phone was still on the couch. I grabbed it, fingers slipping as I dialed 911. The dispatcher answered calmly, 911, what's your emergency? There's someone in my house, I whispered, my voice trembling so hard I could barely form the words. Please, I'm alone, I heard them upstairs. Please send someone. Stay on the line with me, she said, her voice steady, reassuring. Officers are on their way. Where are you in the house? The living room. He's upstairs. I can hear him. The creaking stopped. The silence stretched long, too long, and every second of it made my chest ache. Then, footsteps. Fast, heavy, rushing down the stairs. I dropped the phone, its glow vanishing as it hit the floor, and stumbled back against the couch, flashlight beam shaking wildly. The sound came closer, closer then stopped. At the bottom of the stairs, nothing. No one. Just the dark hallway yawning open like a mouth waiting to swallow me whole. I wanted to run, to fling the door open and tear into the night barefoot if I had to. But my legs wouldn't move. My body was frozen, paralyzed between fight and flight. And then I heard it. My name, whispered from the shadows of the hallway. Not shouted, not even spoken. Just a soft, drawn-out whisper, like someone testing the way it felt to say it. Dzia. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I thought it would crack them. That voice wasn't my parents'. It wasn't a voice I recognized at all. There's a strange thing about storms. They don't just change the weather. They change the way a house feels. Walls that usually protect you suddenly feel too thin. Windows seem fragile. And every gust of wind makes you realize just how alone you really are. That night, when the storm rolled over the town like a beast, settling its weight on the rooftops, I discovered just how terrifying being home alone can truly be. I had been working late in my room, the kind of night where the rain was steady at first, almost soothing. The occasional rumble of thunder made me glance toward the window, but nothing out of the ordinary. My parents had left earlier that afternoon to attend a wedding out of town, promising they'd be back by the next evening. I didn't mind. I was used to being home alone, or at least I thought I was. By the time the clock crept past midnight, the storm had turned violent. Wind slammed against the siding, rattling the shutters like fists pounding to be let in. The rain hit the glass so hard it sounded like a spray of pebbles. And thunder was no longer a distant rumble, it was right overhead, splitting the sky apart. The lights flickered once, twice, then died completely, leaving me with only the pale glow of my laptop screen. I muttered under my breath, annoyed. Perfect timing. I got up, reaching for the flashlight we always kept in the hallway closet. The beam was weak, sputtering, but it was enough to guide me downstairs. The house was darker than I'd ever seen it, every corner stretching deeper than it should, every hallway a tunnel that seemed to swallow the light before it reached the end. I lit a couple of candles in the kitchen, their glow flickering against the rain-streaked windows. For a while, I sat at the table, listening to the storm gnaw at the house. That's when I heard it. A knock. At first, I laughed nervously, shaking my head. The storm had to be messing with me. But it came again, sharper this time. 3 quick raps, deliberate and measured, right at the front door. Storms have a way of pulling memories out of the shadows. Maybe it's the sound of the wind pressing against the glass, or the way thunder rattles through the walls like a warning. But sometimes it feels like storms don't just bring rain, they bring things we'd rather keep outside. That night, I learned what it really means to be alone during a storm, and why silence can be far more terrifying than thunder. It had started in the late evening. I was house-sitting for my cousin while she was away on a trip. Her place a little older, tucked at the end of a narrow road lined with trees that bent low over the pavement, like they were eavesdropping. It wasn't my first time staying there, and normally I liked the solitude. But the weather had shifted quickly that afternoon. The sky turned a bruised shade of gray, and by the time night fell, the storm had rolled in with a vengeance. Rain pounded the roof so hard it sounded like footsteps running across the shingles. The wind moaned through the cracks in the old window frames. I kept telling myself it was just weather, nothing more. But the house felt alive in a way I couldn't ignore, groaning under the storm's weight, its silence between thunderclaps thick enough to make my ears ring. I tried to distract myself, curling up on the couch with a book and a mug of tea, the TV flickering low in the background just for the comfort of human voices. But the power flickered, dimmed, and went out altogether. plunging everything into darkness. The only light came from the occasional lightning flash, bleaching the living room white for half a second, before returning it to a suffocating black. I grabbed my phone, its glow a small comfort,